Today's episode of the Worn and Wound podcast is brought to you by IWC Schaffhausen. Stay tuned to a bit later in the episode to learn more.
Hello and welcome to the Worn and Wound podcast. My name is Blake Bettner. I'm in studio today, joined by Mr. Patrick Marlett. Patrick,
hey,
how are you? Happy early birthday.
Thank you.
Happy early birthday, man.
Did I mention it was my birthday?
Well, I guess when this comes out, it'll be a little bit after. Welcome to adulthood.
Right. Actually, is it on Sunday? No. I'm celebrating on Sunday, but it is the 3rd.
Okay. Well, at any rate, we appreciate you and many happy returns.
Thank you.
We've also got Thomas Killar in office. Thomas, hello. Welcome. How are you?
I'm doing fine. Thanks for having me, fellas.
Anytime.
Any day of the week.
Any
Thomas.
day of the week, yeah. We've got a few interesting things to talk about, including some news that just broke today. Maybe you guys won't be interested in talking about it. Maybe it'll just be me.
I'll listen to you.
Rolex entered the CPO game.
Right. Certified. So just like eBay.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, it's
They've
more
got
than
the little tag that certifies authenticity.
Yeah, but it's more than that, right?
There's more implications, I think, with them doing this formally. Maybe it's not that big of a deal at the end of the day. I'm sure it's really not. But it's fun to speculate on these kind of things. So we'll get to that and maybe a few other things. There's another new watch that I want to talk about as well. Patrick, what are you wearing on your wrist?
Another one? I'm wearing a Grand Seiko. I don't remember the reference, but it is the Black Quartz GMT. And I got my first scuff on it. Tom saw it earlier. You want to check it out? It's pretty cool. It's right in the Zerazzi there.
Oh, okay. Well, that's good. I mean, these are coming like no matter what. Oh, that's like a scuff. Wow.
It's a scuff.
Okay.
I don't even know how that happened. I would like to think I'll make up a story.
Yeah. You should see the other guy kind of a thing, right?
Exactly. Yeah. No, I think it was like a riding glove or something. Not even that. That it's such a weird scuff in such a specific spot.
Because you wear that while you're riding a motorcycle.
Right.
That's right.
Right.
Or you could just say like you just took a hard turn, and like
yeah, exactly. The foot pegs were grinding. My Grand Seiko was grinding. Yeah, really get my lean on.
Right.
No, I'm never that close to the ground. And I love this watch. It's great. It's great. I mean, it was already imperfect, and now it's just more so.
Yeah,
it's quartz.
It's nothing wrong.
Oh
with
yeah,
that.
of course.
Well, that's what makes it more perfect.
The superior.
We got a comment requesting a long form editorial on your journey to quartz.
To finding quartz.
Yeah. So I'm just going to put that on your radar. Maybe start thinking about it, and it's something we can delve into because I think it is interesting. And this is kind of like a new lane that you've like stuck to and you've merged over to. So, which is great. And we of course celebrate that in the same way as anybody else collecting.
Yeah.
Duplicates of a bunch of watches.
And think of all the mechanical watches I'm leaving for you too.
Yeah, there you go.
And the listeners. They're
That's
like,
very true.
Thank God. Yeah.
That's right.
I'll never want the same watch as you.
Thomas, what are you wearing?
So today I have on the bronze Tudor Black Bay 58. We were kind of blessed with a bunch of Tudors today in the office. So I naturally gravitated to this one. I don't know the reference number like you, Patrick. Yeah. But I feel like out of all the Black Bays, it's pretty distinctive, and you can definitely point this one out of.
Right. This is the full bronze case and bracelet. It's the 58 size case. It has a 369 dial. So it's quite unique in terms of Black Bays. And you're right, we did find ourselves with quite a bit of Black Bays just that happened to be in the office today. So we got them all together. We did a little video that was fun. We kind of reminisced about the Black Bay, what it's meant to us over the past decade that it's been around. Maybe we can talk a little bit about more about that. I was going to ask you what you would prefer to see in a Black Bay, but obviously it's a quartz Black Bay, right?
It would just be a quartz Black Bay, truly. Yeah, I mean, I could see them doing like a purpose specific Pelagos with the quartz movement, maybe.
I think that would be really cool. Yeah. If they did, especially if they did like a hydro, like a liquid filled case that could just go to any depth that was like kind of thin. How cool would that be?
Who else is in the game of doing like?
It'd be like an easy M2.
Yeah, right. But it's like I only know Zinn to do that. Is there anyone else that does the oil filled case?
Well, Resins does that for a slightly different
price point.
Purpose and price point. Yes, but for them, it really kind of it's almost disconcerting to see in the flesh, because in theirs it brings all of the markings, the numerals in the hands, all that. It looks like it's projected onto the top of the dial, just painted onto the dial. Yeah,
so good.
It's crazy, but very, very cool. In the Zin, it has a little bit of the same vibe as well. I think if Tudor did a Pelagos like that, would be a banger.
We talked about
I
your
would like to see
FXT.
that.
Your FXT is kind of like that. That would just the nearness of the dial.
It's right up to the crystal.
Right.
Yeah, which I love. I love that
Legibility.
effect. It's super legible. The crystal just like disappears. And that's was like when I got used to wearing that one for a little bit, I was like, these domed crystals things, no way, man. Get them out of here. I am not about them.
Right.
Because I had the EZM 1 as well. And that ended up bothering me so much about that watch
dome on the crystal.
that I sold it.
That's so curious.
Yeah, and I love the EZM. Literally every other detail about that watch, I absolutely adore, except the crystal.
I don't get it. It's odd because like I feel like the domed crystal came with the wave of heritage inspired designs, like just to do that throwback look. But I prefer a flat crystal too. Like my modern tuna is a flat crystal.
Oh yeah,
and long term, like I like the aesthetic of the dome. But practically speaking,
yeah, the dome looks nice, and especially like it's different on the Black Bay 58, which has kind of like a
subtle,
it's a subtle dome. It's like kind of around the edge. Yeah. The EZM 1 had like it peaked up at the top, so it was kind of like egg shape. I don't know, but it like kind of it blended in with the shape of the bezel as well. So
that's kind of cool.
I mean, it was interesting detail, but yeah, it was just like using it was kind of annoying. I say that.
Speaking of domes,
dome, but that's a different kind of a situation, I guess. So, but no, I think Tudor would be well advised to do something like that, especially if they're getting into these like pro monikers and stuff, which we've beaten that horse, I think, quite a bit. But anyways, I would love to see that from Tudor as well. So I would stand behind that.
That's as pro as it gets, man.
It's as pro as it gets. Yeah.
Quartz, oil-filled case, titanium.
Titanium. Yeah. Well, just
no depth rating. It just goes to wherever.
Yeah.
Just equalizes, right?
I love that. Yeah, that'd be cool. I mean,
called the equalizer, right? The Tudor
the
equalizer.
Yeah, no, that'd be dope. I could say that. That's probably the black bay I would want, and definitely watch that episode when it comes out. Not sure when it comes out, but I'll be editing it.
Yeah,
leave it a like.
Keep an eye out for that video. We talk about a lot of different black bays if you like black bays. So I'm wearing an Orwork UR100 V. And I'm wearing this for a reason today. This has a wandering hours display, and a watch came out today that was kind of surprising to me from a brand that we don't really talk about very much around here. I don't really have many strong feelings for it all.
I sold all mine.
Audemars Piguet, yeah. For the birds. But they brought back
those rich birds.
They brought back the
birds.
Star Wheel in the code 1159 case. And I think it's pretty awesome. I like it a lot, actually. And so the Star Wheel is a watch that they had made from the early 90s, maybe 91, as early as, and they were kind of like these formal, had interesting finishes. They had translucent rotating hour discs that would come into position and track across that minute thing. So there'd be 3 discs, just like this Orwork. They made that. They made different versions of that up until the early 2000s. So for about a decade, maybe a little bit more, and then it went out of production, and they brought it back in the code 1159. And it's kind of in modern guise. It's like slightly, I don't want to say sportier, but there's like a less formality to it than those earlier ones, which have kind of a delicate nature about them, you know? So this one it's a lot more bold. It looks, it's a bit thicker. The 1159 case has a lot of angularity and interesting shapes going on. I find it a very interesting case. This has an aventurine base dial. It's got that like, I don't even like a
Starry,
nylon
right.
Cordura strap-ish type thing. Yeah. Like it just looks pretty awesome. I'm a big fan of like wandering hours. Complications, it's not really a complication. To be honest, they actually built this on top of their time only.
So it's a module for a pre-existing movement. That's kind of cool.
So it's, but I don't know. I don't know about you guys. I like to look at this thing like quite a bit.
I'm a fan of the vintage offerings, specifically
you
for
like
the clear hour wheels. And it's odd. I really love the clear hour wheel because it gives you a glimpse of the dial, because only if you've not seen the watch, it's really just the upper register of the watch that's relevant, right? Where the minute track is, and then the hour circle falls, and then it points at the minute. It's the most practical you can get, and outside of quartz. And I love that fact about the watch. And so the rest of it's just really beautiful decorated dial. And there's variations obviously on this, but the clear disc allow you an opportunity to get a glimpse of that dial, where it's the solid disc really bothered me. Like when you're mentioning the aventurine base dial, and I feel like you maybe get to see more of it if the disc were clear. I need to take a second look at it.
It's true. It's almost the opposite problem of the QP, the perpetual calendar code 1159 with the aventurine dial, where the complications almost disappears because it's all set into that dial, which is obviously gorgeous, but the legibility of everything going on there like takes it, where this kind of like puts all the legibility in front of the aventurine, so you don't really get as much of it. The translucent thing would have been interesting, or having maybe like some openings in the actual discs or something like that. But you're right, it's the exact same with this. Once that hour hand catches the minute track, that's all you need to be seeing. So that minute track would have like a solid color that would contrast with the hour numeral printed onto the hour disc. So once it caught up to that, that's all you would see, the hour and the minute. And that's it. And then the rest of it would just kind of fade away. But this has like a more complex looking carriage. It's interesting to look at, and it feels a bit more like modern exotic. So
with that like adventuring, like starry kind of like dial background. I'm gonna have to agree with you as well. Like if you kind of compare the this star wheel to the earlier ones from AP, like the earlier ones, they kind of have this like daintier, like more like, I guess, like, I don't know if fragile is like the right word, but it's more dressy. Formal. Right. Yeah, it's more dressy. Yeah, but this one just seems more forgive me for lack of a better, robust, right? It's it looks just more modern. It looks a tad bit more I guess toolish, I guess.
Yeah, which is weird to say with the aventurine dial though, because when I see that, I think of dress watches. Like I think of watches that maybe have a moon phase. It's such a really delicate, beautiful dial, and it's odd that is the robust.
But that was just like the style. Like I know it's not the same era, but if you think of like a 250 GTO, Ferrari has this kind of like grace about its body. It's arguably beautiful when you against to like an F40 or something like that, which is like all these hard angles and stuff. Like this feels like it's more like they're both performance vehicles of the era, but one feels a lot more like in your face about it, and the others, like dapper about it. This doesn't have that dapper feeling, but I think it's like the F40. Pretty beautiful looking in its own way.
So this new one's the F40 for you.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Speaking of body, so even though that the case is made out, I believe it's the bezel, the lugs, and the case back are made out of white gold.
White gold. Yeah.
So, but it does come off as like steel in the photos, right?
Yeah.
Which kind of right.
Yeah.
And then the mid case is made out of ceramic. So that kind of like adds that like modern.
And the mid case has the like royal oak shape to it. And there's some recesses, and it's a very interesting case. Actually, I really wonder if the code 1159 will come around as being like, okay, maybe we wrote this one off too quick. There's like a generic quality to the regular time and date dials that I think everyone was like, but the complications like that QP, the chronograph, I think are pretty nice looking. And then this one, I was like, okay. This is the 1159 I've been waiting for.
Right. Yeah. I was gonna say, like, why did like the 1159 just get so much like, shade?
It had I don't want to be like, it had like kind of a bland quality to it's like the font that it used is in the numerals, and in the shape of its hand, it had, skewed maybe a little like Daniel Wellington style. It would be like the harshest of the criticism.
They copied Daniel Wellington.
And this was kind of like widely, criticized for being that.
Ooh, it does look a little Kickstarter.
It's like it's got a little like, okay, this doesn't quite land. This design language doesn't quite land for me. Especially for a brand that has such a distinctive design language established, through the heritage. So maybe this is just like teething pains and it's getting through it, and maybe it will mature and become something that we all knew it could be,
Just because, do you think like they've just been known for the royal oak for just so long that
that's-
it was just like, okay, let's try to do something different to where they like really did something that was just like, whoa.
Look, that's a big shadow
Yeah.
to step out from under.
Yeah.
And they have other great watches,
They do.
like the Millenary and other kind of oddball watches that they're just kind of there. You don't see them posted on Instagram and whatever your socials and stuff like that, but they're beautiful. Obviously they're like high quality watchmakers. I like seeing them do something exciting like this outside of the Royal Oak line. And maybe everyone's a little like over the Royal Oak in some sense.
Now people are probably asking to have this module slapped onto a Royal Oak.
Oh God, no, I don't know about that.
I mean, that case and the bracelet designer.
I'm glad.
Timeless. Yeah.
I'm glad that they did this in the 1159. Like the Royal Oak is fine. I have no problem with the Royal Oak. It's just I'm outside of whatever culture it exists in right now and how people think about it is kind of like
status symbol.
Yeah. But like put all that aside, it's a fine watch and it's great.
I've
But
always preferred the Nautilus.
you're a Nautilus guy.
I'm a Nautilus guy between the two.
Okay.
Same designer, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I've always been a fan of the Nautilus.
Yeah.
Just the
okay.
extended sides of the case. I know we're talking about AP, but can I just ask maybe a naive question? Where did the name Star Wheel come from? Do we know?
So the Star Wheel, it's actually based on the name comes from the shape of the gear under the dial that activates those orbiting
Disc.
discs. Yeah. Like on the pocket watch, if you look at it, you can see the shape of that wheel under there, and that's what inspired this. Obviously, it's not a new thing. We were in our work facilities in Geneva, and they have the clocks with these wandering hour displays. So they talked us through. Felix did an awesome job walking, talking us through the history there and how they were inspired by it and translated into their own thing and have kind of built their own design language on this.
Is that open access, by the way? I mean, if you're in Switzerland and near Urwerk, like it was such a fun experience visiting their museum, really.
Yeah, absolutely. I would recommend reaching out and setting up. They're very, very friendly people, though. I don't want to. If you're listening to this, don't just go over there. But shoot them an email, and I bet that they would be happy to host you. So, anyways, that's the AP Star Wheel. It's like $55,000 or something like that. It's a little spendy, but this is a big time brand, right?
Yeah.
It's white gold. It's a weird, not complication thing. So
I'm waiting for the collab with Swatch, the $200 Star Wheel.
Yeah, the plastic Star Wheel. Yeah.
Swatch wheel.
Swatch wheel.
The Swatch wheel. Yeah. The Star Swatch.
Have they ever done a Star Wheel? that would sell very well.
Yeah. It could be quartz.
Yeah.
Most of them, they don't have a running
Except
second
for this
hand.
one. Yeah.
This one does have a running second hand.
Yeah, except for this one. So this would get away with being quartz. 100%. That's why I like jump hours that are quartz too.
How do you feel about that running seconds hand, like over the orbiting discs there?
Another distraction.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like I could have gone without that.
I don't mind it.
The artwork doesn't have.
No, some of them do though, but it's like it's not like a hand.
Right.
It's like a disc that's off to the side.
Oh, I was gonna say that would be cool if there was
rotating.
something on the border, just showing a running seconds.
Yeah, like a proof of life, like it's working.
Yeah,
right,
kind of a thing.
Yeah.
So
what would that be?
Yeah.
Snoopy.
Yeah. Well, the Black Bay.
Right.
We did this video on it, and
maybe you've heard of it.
Yes. I just wanted to go back and reiterate, like the history there, and not get into like the Black Bay itself, but just kind of like the trends that it started, that are like reverberate today, and how we feel. I feel like it was embraced, this whole kind of like we're bringing back something historic design and modernizing it or bringing it back exactly as it was. I know they were the first to do it, but they really kind of caught the mainstream when they did it. And it was really before that, the heritage chronographs, these weren't Black Bays at all, but this was before they were available in the US, that brought back like the home plate and the Monte Carlo chronograph designs. Beautiful designs.
Was that prior to
totally
the Black
original?
Bay?
That was prior to the Black Bay. Yeah.
Right.
Tom Cruise wore one in a Mission Impossible 3 or 4 or something like that. Anyways, that's like a totally original Tudor design that I loved that they brought back. They did it pretty well. It was a bit chunky, I think, by today's standard. I would love to see them come back to that in a more elegant manner. And then the Black Bay really kind of brought it front and center. And we've seen a lot of brands kind of follow suit, where it's almost like it's like risky to do something new and original. The Code 1159 is a perfect example of that. The Royal Oak is relatively unchanged. Like if you look at a new reference, it looks about the same as the original ones. I'm not going to get into direct reference numbers or anything like that, but like, and it's the same with the Nautilus, and it's kind of cemented their place in culture now and how we value these things. And if we even look at, we've got those Tussauds over in our office, like it's still a thing that's like powerful today. They look cool, and I think we like a lot of them. But on the other hand, I think now it's gone on like enough where you kind of wonder, like, have we been robbed of a lot of like original designs because of this, like over the last decade? What would have happened
maybe
if that?
Yes, maybe no. I feel like the designs that didn't last were the ones that just weren't commercially successful, right? And then a lot of these larger brands can continue on with their, whether it's branded as a heritage item or it's something that's been in their catalog and has remained the same, like you're saying, like a Submariner is a Submariner. I mean, they've changed. They've changed quite a bit.
But it's like a 911. It's kind of just slowly evolved through the
that much more aerodynamic,
Yeah, it's like a little bit
Seats
better.
are that much better.
Like, if you're expecting the Submariner to come out and be like totally different, like no. Like it's not going to happen. It's just going to slowly evolve, and that's kind of what it does,
Yeah, that's fair. It's interesting, robbed of original designs. Yeah, it was in that same sense too, just talking about the Submariner, like the amount of watches that come out that are not original and are homages or rip-offs of designs that we've seen from many other brands. I mean, you go into Manhattan, you find a few shops that are selling watches that look very much like a Royal Oak or a Nautilus or a Sub, because that's what sells, which is crazy. But yeah, I agree. It's interesting. I like to bring it back to the Black Bay, and it's odd because I feel like the Black Bay maybe picked up in popularity because to some, at least to me, when I initially came out, it was a more affordable Submariner. Right, and in my mind, because I know Rolex used to make the cases for Tudor, and they were oyster cases, oyster bracelets, and now you felt like you can get into the brand with Tudor. Yeah, right. Yeah, I feel like Tudor's sort of been that gateway for a lot of people.
Yeah, it's interesting, and it still is that, especially as Rolex looks to like maybe move a little bit up market. And Rolex isn't going to start making like heritage designs, like that's not really their thing. Yeah. So Tudor like can do that, and they have been, relatively effectively.
The Cellini moon phase, right? I guess that was kind of like because they didn't do one of those in a while, right? Didn't they re-release the Cellini moon phase? Am I crazy? Or have they always kept that one?
It's been a little bit.
Okay.
Not all that
long,
but it's a
There's
sharp watch.
I feel like they've kept a lot of their designs in-house, right?
Yep.
This episode is brought to you by IWC Schaffhausen. Founded in 1868, IWC is known for creating functional complications which are ingenious and robust. The Pilot's Watch Chronograph 41 in bronze builds on the brand's mainstay chronograph format for enhanced durability in an easy-to-wear size. The watch's case, pushers, and crown are made of bronze containing aluminum and iron, making it 50% harder than standard bronze. A blue dial with subdued white printing and gold-plated hands offers a perfect complement to the case's eventual patina, and IWC's Ease Exchange technology enables the wearer to change the strap with the simple touch of a button. The Pilot's Watch Chronograph 41 Bronze is an ideal keepsake for either yourself or that special someone this holiday season. Visit IWC.com to learn more, and be sure to follow them on Instagram at IWCWatches_US for the latest releases and news.
And I feel like the Black Bay 58, although they've like kind of made it mainstream, kind of using that heritage design, they have like used it as a platform to kind of like try new things. And it being like the sister brand of Rolex, it's like, oh, like, you know, you wonder if like, oh, why doesn't like Rolex do this or why don't they do that? I mean, you've seen it in the, you know, it's been their kind of like R&D, like experimental
test ground.
Platform. Their skunk works, I guess, if you will. And you see that with like the 925 silver case, the bronze case. You know,
the initial run, there were 3 options: the red and gilt, the blue, and then the black and gold, right?
Well, it was the
smiley face, the ETA one.
It was the burgundy,
burgundy,
and then the blue bezel came, and then the gilt.
Gold. And then it's funny because as well received and as well liked as the Black Bay 58 is, and you mentioned this in the video that you must watch now, there's only 2 steel options.
Yeah.
There's only 2 steel standard options. It's the craziest thing, and yet it is such a hyped, loved watch, for better or worse. And like you were saying, though, they've done more variations of the 58 than there are steel options. Just for it's the craziest thing
of the 41. Yeah, they've done a lot of
41
different, the black ones and different colors and.
But even the 58 has like gold and silver and
the
bronze.
50, you're right. You're right. There's a lot of those there, and that has been like the unexpected. Yeah, I guess that's a fair point. You kind of have a test bed for some weird ideas that they have. Then you know, maybe some catch, maybe some don't. But
so bronze Submariner, how successful was Tudor with theirs? Let's see what we'll do with the bronze Submariner now.
Yeah, they make a gold one.
Yeah, they
make gold. Yeah. But no, I think that's a good point. And even if you look at watches like the Royal Oak and like the Nautilus, they've housed some pretty crazy. You know, there's a Royal Oak perpetual calendar that's like ultra thin. That's all like on the same plane. That's like crazy innovative. Whatever, but it's kind of built on the frame of that like historic.
Yeah, and they have one in titanium as well, right? Don't they have like a Royal Oak like offshore like?
Yeah,
like
the offshore gets into like a whole other territory of like crazy stuff. But yeah, you're right, and that's like a total like, you know, maybe that's the innovative arm. But you know, I think when you think about that era of maybe like late 50s, early 60s of like some of the cool innovative watches and designs that you were seeing that are serve as the basis of what we have today, like what are those things being made today? That like, is there anything being made today that in 50 years, 60 years from now, we would come back to and be like, oh, I want them to remake that? Or will we look back and be like, oh, that's all the exact same stuff is was happening back then? Like there is innovation happening though, but it's in the guise of these like classic historic designs. You know, even if you look at Rolex, they haven't really done anything innovative in the last like 50 years other than like the Sky Dweller.
Right.
And that's built in basically like a watch that looks a bit like their kind of formal platform that has been well established.
Right.
You know, visually it's nothing like super exotic, but like what it does is, and I think it's really, really cool. And it's kind of an unusual thing for them, but you know, and this is where I like brands that like, you know, what Zenith does with their DeFi range and which was always kind of the purpose of that range, right? Or brands like Hublot or brands that maybe you don't like or that are love or hate, but they're pushing in weird directions and doing crazy things.
I agree. It's interesting. The one brand I can think of so there's 2 brands that come to mind for me. Like when I think of Omega, their Seamaster 300s changed so much over the years in like radical ways, not just proportion, but overall design. And then there's like the opposite end of the spectrum where you have a brand like Squale, who's made cases for countless other brands, who still has the 1521 case in their collection. And it's like, it's pretty much the same as it has always been. Yeah. But that's one of the only brands I can think of that has a case that's like near identical to what their original concept was, which is kind of cool. Right. And I like both. I like both ends of the spectrum. It's cool that you can buy a 1521 Squale, and you can usually get them under $1,000 depending on where you buy them used. And that's a really good deal for like a watch that has a really good history. Go out, try to find some vintage offerings instead. There's some cool ones out there. But Omega, it's funny because my dad has a Seamaster 300 that's radically different than what came out in Bond. You know, we spoke about Bond and the weekend watches today with the twisted lugs and the wave dial. And I feel like that's the new established look, but even that's changed radically for them. And I like that they're not beholden to a previous design. You know, like they're allowing themselves to change. Even like they removed the wave dial for a little while there with this when they switched to ceramic inserts. It was just like gloss blue or black.
Yeah.
And then they went back with like a wider wave pattern, but
that laser etched wave pattern. Yeah.
I forget it's cool though. And I like that Omega is a brand that's willing to make those changes, or, you know, I don't know what's behind those changes, but I like that about them.
Yeah. Yeah. That's interesting. It's a tough thing for a brand like that, though. You know, I mean, you've got one thing that works that you don't want to break.
Yeah,
but at
for
the same
them,
time,
it's a Speedmaster. Like, don't mess that up.
But look at that poster of the Speedmasters behind us. There's like 100 different weird ass looking Speedmasters on there. But at the end of the day, when you say Speedmaster, it's like that Speedmaster Professional that pops into your head, and that has looked pretty much the exact same.
Right.
You know, since the late 50s. Well, I shouldn't say that. That was, you know, the early ones were like those broad arrow ones. It was slightly different details, but function, you know, I mean, it's about the same as it's looked like since, you know, mid 60s, I guess I'll say. And that design has aged just fine.
Yeah.
That's another one. It's like the 911. It's just kind of looks good then, looks good now. You know, it just works.
Yeah.
So.
And it's funny because like even the Black Bay isn't like a pure 1-to-1 with the diver that it was modeled after, right? Which had square hour markers. It's interesting. We've sort of talked about it on just the worn and wound in general about how the kind of distinction that's being made between the Pelagos and the Black Bay is that this one has square hour markers and this one has circular hour markers. It feels that way sometimes.
Yeah. Look, there's a lot of that kind of
there's
stuff.
There's some other nuances.
It's easy to like get down into the weeds with that kind of stuff, and that's where I stop to think, like, what are we doing here? You know, like does it need to adhere to like this or that, or you know, Tudor's doing cool stuff, and that's why I kind of more and more gravitate towards their like Pelagos line, just because that does seem to be like a thoroughly modern, like pushing ahead rather than kind of looking behind a type of situation. So
even if like a brand doesn't change the design, if they're like doing some cool things like movement wise, like technical stuff, like that's what I appreciate about Omega. Yeah, you know, it's like they're always like, you know, I don't know if this is a stretch to say like pushing the boundaries of like what they're doing, within the case, you know, as far as like their movements, you know, and again, like, you know, like, let me know if I'm like speaking incorrectly about with their like coaxial escapement, you know, and the whole like METAS like certification and whatnot. Like, I still think too, that still counts as like pushing the boundaries, like even if it doesn't, like you don't see an aesthetic change, you know, and that's something I still appreciate, like a brand just trying to kind of like make better. Products,
that's so it's like the materials that they're using,
right?
Are like pushing it, even though those concepts aren't exactly new. Well, I guess traditional like kind of lever escapement, the coaxial is comparatively new, but that they do that stuff at all, and you know, kind of own it and lean into it, and then you know, push to kind of iterate on that kind of stuff. I think is pretty cool. So. You know, it's an interesting thing to ponder, and it's something that I think about, you know, a lot when I look at like my own watches, when I see a lot of the watches that are coming out, and you notice kind of similar trends taking hold, and you see a lot of very familiar looking watches start to come into your inbox and in for review, and some of them are great, perfectly handsome watches, but you yearn for that like original like what would I feel about this watch in 5, 10, 15, 20, let alone, you know, the 50, 60 years. Like is it carving its own space? Does it need to? Is that important? Or is it more of like the other thing, like a sentimental thing?
Yes and no. I feel like yes and no. I feel like that's why we do gravitate towards silhouettes we're familiar with. Or like when you do think of Speedmaster, the curved lugs come to mind, like the thin tacky bezel, the triple register, how it's aligned, because we're comfortable with it and it's timeless, and it's a design I think that's universally agreeable. Like we all kind of like the Speedmaster, I would say. I mean, there's a reason it's so popular. That it's hard to push for original, because if you veer too far off course, there's a risk that people just won't like it. Yeah. Right. So and it's crazy, and I feel like there aren't that many people in the space that are really going wild, right? I like the Solabs watch we saw recently. That was unique. That was definitely different. And I've never seen anything like it. I loved it immediately. Anordane does crazy
like totally
stuff.
unique designs.
Right.
Yeah. Like they're there.
Yeah, you do have to. It's really have to look. Or go to Wind Up Watch Fair. And
Go to the yes. This whole episode has been a plug.
Right,
for,
exactly.
The wine.
Yeah, both these brands you can see. Yeah,
That's true.
it's true. It is true though. It is in the micro brand space. I mean, I guess I'm not expecting innovation, which is sad to say from some of these more mainstream brands, but and not in the. And you're right with movement though. There are innovations happening within the space. That, of movements, but with design, I guess you want something that's familiar, something that your dad wore. Like. When you go to the shop, you're like, yeah, my dad used to wear, GMT.
Something that you would like associate,
right,
with yourself, with your style, like how you live your life, the kind of things that you do, right? That takes on another layer of meaning other than like, oh man, I really like the date placement on this watch or whatever it is, or the lume color or the strength or something like that, And that's how these things take on different meanings and their own meanings for us.
Yeah. It kind of makes me think too, like, when I do run into someone that is wearing a resonance, I'm just like, oh. Okay.
Yeah.
Like, this guy's, he's pulling it off and he's rocking a resonance. And just like, there's just so much like gears that are turning inside my head where I'm just like, okay, like, what is this guy into? And it's like that in itself, that design, right? It's just, I feel like that's one of those designs where it's just like, I think 50 years from now, you look back and just be like, this was something different. Like,
and it would still look futuristic 50 years from now.
Completely.
It's so wild.
Yeah.
Because there's nothing like it.
Yeah, it's purely doing its own thing.
Isn't MB&F like too far out there? Does Max, if I can just call him by his first name, does Max like make like, stuff that's like more conservative? I mean,
look, the legacy machines are the most conservative things that they make. And even that was a struggle for him to get made because it was in a round case. And that's really the only thing that's like traditional about it, right? And I think the other people involved did not want that to happen because MB&F to them was purely like lab pushing forward, like crazy funky stuff. Obviously now the legacy machines are probably the most approachable of their watches, and I think people enjoy them for what they are. But like I definitely miss the early days, like the HM 2, 3, 4 in particular. I mean, oh my gosh, like seeing these things every year was like, mind blowing type stuff. And, not to say I don't like the legacy machines, I do, but since they've kind of shifted focus to those areas, I don't see I don't have that same, like every year, oh man, what kind of crazy ass thing are they going to, what shape is it going to be? What's the case? I like the horological machines, I guess more because of that. Even though if I was going to own an MB&F to wear every day, it'd probably be a legacy machine.
Really? You feel that way? I feel like the Urwerk is pretty. It's adjacent to what you'd find in like a classically designed watch. It's a unique shape. It's a unique shape,
and but it's wearable, right. And like if I'm going to have these things, like I want to be able to wear it and experience it. Yeah. Because to me, like it is a part. Like if I had an HM3, I would want to wear it all around and be like, but it's like totally out there and crazy, or an HM4. I've seen one time I saw a guy in the wild with an HM4 on. And I was like,
did you approach him?
Well, I knew who he was. So, that's a very small world. The people that run in that in that space. So,
the fellow over at the collective after party, he was. What was that reference or model?
There was a bulldog.
Okay.
An HM10.
Okay.
I think. Yeah. There. Even those, I think, get a little like.
Yeah.
Okay. Like. Yeah, 1, 2, 3, 4 to me are like, that's where it's at with the horological machines to me.
But to your point, Patrick, like Blake's Urwerk, like it's subtle enough to where it's like like a Joe Schmo's like on the train is gonna be like, oh, that's just a watch.
Yeah.
But it's just like those who are like kind of like semi deep into horology. It's like, oh, that's not just a watch, you know. So it's kind of like it toes that line there. So
it skirts a nice kind of line there,
because they have some crazier designs for sure.
Yeah, this is the kind of their most approachable design.
Do they make an Urwerk in quartz?
That's a good question. I'll have to get them on that.
Yeah. Well, next time we go there,
there you go.
You can.
I love everything.
Felix,
you guys
listen to me. Listen to me, man. Yeah.
There's this thing called quartz. Really, it's the future. Trust
They
me.
do. Do you remember that big digital
The atomic.
atomic
Dude,
thing?
that's
Like
so cool.
that.
Yeah.
Obviously, that like has to be plugged
They
into the wall.
they
all that
make
kind of
they
stuff.
make those, right? That was an Urwerk
Yeah.
atomic clock. They had 2 examples there.
That like stores the watch head in it and like winds it and then keeps it set to like that atomic time. It receives signals from like all of these different satellites.
Yeah.
That thing, how crazy was that thing? How cool would that be to have in the office?
Oh
here?
my god, that'd be amazing, man. I mean, that we would have to definitely
Yeah, we got to put
ensure
Mal.
that.
Yeah, for sure. Gonna have to put Malin on notice there.
Yeah.
Yeah, can we get one of the just as set decoration? No, I don't think so.
Right.
But yeah, that would be the most accurate option. You're
Yeah.
right. I need to go atomic.
That would be the ultimate.
Just check.
Yeah. Screw collecting watches or just having watches. You just want to like
I
have
just want
atomic clocks.
I just want the
or just the one atomic clock.
Yeah.
All right.
But to carry
Fair
that
enough.
whole box around, mind you guys.
Like a boombox. you know?
Yeah, it's the size of a boombox.
So as we get into, we're kind of like in this holiday period right now between Thanksgiving and Christmas, right?
Kinda.
It's kind of like that
Yeah.
bridge between the two, that lull. It's not a lull. Like I like this time of year though. We do a lot of fun stuff when you guys are with family that you maybe don't see all that often.
The calm
Are they
before the
like-
storm?
Yes.
Are they like, are you still doing the watch thing?
Yeah.
Do they do
I
that?
get
And then
that.
you're like-
I do get that.
Really?
Yeah, it's
They do that to
it's
you?
like a hard thing to explain.
That's interesting.
Well, I've been doing it a long time now, so they just like don't even talk to me about what I do because like that guy's weird. And but like Thomas, you're kind of new to this.
I'm kind
space.
of I'm kind of new, and I'll have these conversations, and like you said, there's a lengthy explanation that has to happen, and I just tell them like I do a little bit of writing and photography and about watches, and it's always like really watches, like
Yeah.
what more can you say than like it just like tells time and then you just kind of like dive deep into that. But yeah, and then what's funny though, so like it's the people that kind of like are taken aback by it. I feel like are the same people like a year later. They're like, hey man, like so I'm looking to like buy this watch or whatever, you know. And there was the same one of my buddies of mine. He was like the same person, just like didn't quite get like what we do for a living, but sure enough, he was in Hawaii and he was just like, dude, like I like this. There's a dealer here. They had this like Black Bay. Funny enough, it was like Black Bay 58. Ended up getting the Black Bay 58 silver, and then like sure enough, he was asking me about like Rolexes, and he just so happened to.
Black Bay gateway drug.
It's a problem.
Yeah.
Just gonna want a Rolly afterwards, people. Hold up
for sure. It is the gateway watch. But he ended up like having he wanted a Submariner, one of the new ones. He kind of fell into his lap.
That's awesome.
I don't know if he like minds telling me the story, but I won't name him, so it won't matter anyways. But he kind of went into an AD. He explained this story about like how he wanted this watch, and the AD kind of like I guess fell for that story and was just like, hey, there's.
What do you mean fell for it?
Like,
did he just like make the story?
No. He was actually telling
Or he like
true
bought
sto-
the story.
No, like
You like believed him.
Yeah,
I pictured the scene from.
She believed him.
she believed him.
She
Okay,
believed him,
okay.
and was like,
I wish I was
like
there.
like like you're this whole connection with your family and wanting to have a Submariner and blah blah blah. And she was like, hey, like someone missed their allocation. And he got the call, and he jumped on it. So then, like,
What? He just jumped the line for
So-
some sob story?
okay,
What did he say?
I don't like.
My
he-
grandfather wore one.
That was
Grandma
Patrick's
wore.
spot in line, maybe.
Yeah, right. Exactly. I
maybe.
never got
I'm sorry,
that call.
Patrick.
Yeah.
Submariner, they don't make a Submariner in courts though. So.
No. You're right. You're
Yeah.
right. That's
Maybe
why.
someday they'll get that.
That's why I jumped out of line.
Right, yeah.
Wait. This is.
Yeah.
This is mechanical. Yeah.
But it's usually those people that are just like like they kind of like look
What a
at me sideways.
happy-go-lucky life that is. I mean, it's difficult to get a Submariner. Am I wrong? Like.
It is, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, it's not like GMT or Daytona difficult, but it's
Sure.
difficult. Like, it's generally not like I'm going to walk into this joint and be like, yo, I need a Submariner.
Right.
Is it Pulp Fiction where Christopher Walken talks about the watch he hit up his?
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. That's the story I imagine him telling.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Of his granddad.
Right.
Yeah.
That's
And-
amazing.
And it was this 5513.
Yeah.
That's funny.
Yeah.
So that came from your connection. So it's
Right.
really your Submariner.
You're the reason.
Well, yeah, I guess if you want to put it that way.
You're at fault for the Submariner.
right. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, let him know that if
Yeah.
he plans on selling it, you get first dibs. Right?
There you go.
You certainly should.
Yeah.
It's funny not to be a braggadouche, but I am the person that people ask in my group of friends about watches. I'm the
Oh,
person
yeah,
that
I
they-
would hope so.
Right. It's so funny sometimes when that happens. And they'll ask me about brands or references I don't even know. And I'm like, well, I might need to do my own research to figure this out for you. But
Well, that's good.
you know, I only collect quartz, right? But it's funny being that guy. That's the only thing I get so far as working in an industry is concerned. And I've been collecting for a while. But it is weird saying collecting for some reason because it's like I have 3 personal watches right now, so my collection's small. But yeah, I guess I'm the guy that people go to for that. But describing my job's a little bit easier, I guess. I mean, it really is just all the heavy lifting.
Yeah. Even if it's something as small, and I've gotten this like from high school friends that kind of just see like what I'm doing, and they're just like, you know, they'll say like, "Hey, I have this Seiko turtle. Like, I just want to I want to mix it up. Like, what strap do I choose?" You know, and then I'll get the message like, you know, like, dude, like this like NATO or this like leather strap really changes the watch. And like that's like the cool little things about like the hobby and like, and who knows, like then maybe that's like a gateway, maybe that's like a strap like gateway drug, you know.
Exactly.
Oh yeah, I think once you get to the point of like, oh, I can like I can take the spring bar off of this and take the strap off and put a different strap on, then you've crossed the line.
Yeah.
Right? And then you're like, oh. You think about it a little bit differently if you go through the trouble of doing that.
There's OEM and then there's aftermarket.
Right.
Yeah. And once you discover that, it's like, okay, look out. Like,
especially when other brands have like fitted options, like you can
all
get
bets are off.
Yeah, you're like,
Then you get all kinds of, you spend tons of money on crazy straps or whatever, and then you'll be like, oh, I can do this with other watches too, and then you know, off to the races you go.
Yeah.
So
stock bracelet for me. Gotta keep things simple.
Right.
But I did used to collect straps, and it's funny because I used to buy a strap code. And I buy Seikos, and they, you know, there's like fitted metal bracelets you can get. Because Seikos very, very popular and still are popular. But yeah, there's a lot of brands that make aftermarket bracelets for Seikos that fit perfectly, and that was a really fun way to explore the hobby for sure.
Yeah. Recently, I was trying to find this leather single pass NATO that's just still missing. But like I was just coming across all the straps that I have, and I'm like, man, I need to like find a better option here. Like I didn't even realize I had like this much like NATO like straps and like leather straps. I'm just like, man, this accumulated like rather quickly. Like and like
tackle box, dude.
Yeah,
That's how
Tackle
you
box
have?
that out.
You just leave it in the garage.
Well, next. I mean, I know. I just have a drawer with all the stuff in it, but
Tackle box.
Tackle box. That's what
Tackle
person.
box.
Yeah, it's the solution for a lot of things.
Right.
Yeah.
So, so speaking of going into a Rolex dealer and getting a Rolex like off the shelf, Rolex now has a certified pre-owned program. I don't know if you guys think about this kind of stuff. Probably not as much, but now they will offer. The watches have to be at least 3 years old. I don't know if there's like a limit to how old they can be, but they will be working up to their spec. I don't know how they define that, and certified authentic.
So like within 3 years, or
they have to be more than 3 years. 3 years old or older.
that's interesting.
Yeah.
What if they're not?
Well, then you can't. Then it can't be a CPO. Then it usually it's the other way around. Like they have to be like pretty new and just slightly used, and then they're like a CPO. You know, if you think about like a 328 BMW, you know, CPO or something like that.
Yeah.
So anyway, but it will all be through their retailer network of authorized dealers, right? So. It's starting with Bucherer and I think Bucherer in like 6 different countries, and then spring of next year come to the U.S. and then I think ADs will have to apply to be able to carry CPO watches, and I don't know if that will mean that they have to have like access to a Rolex trained watchmaker on site to be able to verify authenticity, all this kind of stuff. All the kind of stuff you would hope that a used watch at that shop would have been subjected to in the first place. So Bucherer has already listed some of these online, and they are listed at quite a bit of a premium over even the gray market prices. So, you know, I think this will really come down to like defining the delta between like what I'm like paying a premium for the comfort of like going through an AD and it comes with a 2-year warranty. And it's authenticity guaranteed. You know, how much value does that? Like, would you pay, 10% more for that, or 20% more for that?
Right, for your peace of mind.
Yeah, like that limit's got to be somewhere, and I think that delta will be defined. And I think that premium will end up, whether they like it or not, setting a bar for gray market prices. And then gray market people will say, well, it's this price that's already been set by an authorized dealer, minus 10% or whatever.
Right.
And I think that will like establish like a baseline of pricing for the used market, which would be kind of interesting.
Yeah.
So buy those Rolex now.
Yeah, but I don't know how this is all going to play out,
Yeah.
and frankly, I don't care all that much. I'm not in the market for Rolex or anything like that, or for new or used. But in the future, like if they came out with a watch that I found interesting and wanted to buy, then
Yeah.
I don't know what implications this would like. Will there be a list for a CPO watch as well? So it's really kind of splintering into a third. So it's kind of like MSRP watches, CPO watches, and then like gray market watches. So it's kind of like in the middle ground of like a trusted dealer on a forum or something like that.
You know what? I feel like that would be more so for the person that's really not into watches, but kind of wants to get the watch.
Yeah.
I feel like for me, like if I'm looking into buying a watch, I would have done enough research and enough on the watch itself, on the reference, and like on the buyer as well, to know that like, okay, this is like what I'm getting myself into. If it's a watch without box, without papers, and being unaware of like the service records of it. But I feel like for someone that's like kind of like new to the hobby, or just kind of like is just buy one watch and then call it a day, like that tag means something. That's CPO tag means something.
Look, in well-heeled folks, I think it'd be worth the premium. If you're looking for a gold sub and you're willing to spend over $30,000 for a watch, and this one might be like $36,000, and it's CPO, like, I see a lot of that kind of like in that territory of people like going for this stuff. But we'll see what kind of effect it ends up having. I mean, prices seem to be, I guess you'd say, normalizing quite a bit more in the secondhand market, which is great. And hopefully they keep coming down to normal person levels, so people that want these watches are able to buy them a little bit more easily without having to worry about people that are speculating on them and flipping them, and then they can just end up into the people who want to use them and wear them. And I would feel a lot better about wearing mine if the values were way down on them. So it's kind of an uncomfortable territory, I think, for a lot of people who have some of these watches that have been into Rolex watches for a long time. And then all this stuff kind of blew up. And they're like, oh, now I don't even want to walk around the street with it for whatever reason.
Like that's always been like a problem, though. It's such an identifiable brand.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it's always top of the Forbes 500. You know what I mean? Like it's one of those brands. Like everyone knows the silhouette. Everyone knows that they're costly.
Yeah.
Right. So there's a level of discomfort there. And not even just from theft, I suppose, but just like if you don't want to wear it and because it has its own status, and I feel like that might make you seem like you have a certain air. I don't know. I'm not describing myself well, but
no, but I think that's exactly right. Like I don't feel comfortable wearing it as like a status symbol. That's not why I have any of these things. I don't care about that at all. And I like if you look at how I dress and the kind of things I do, like I don't care about that part of it, and I don't want it to wear it as a status. So I don't wear any of my watches as a flex or a status symbol. Yeah. So I'll go out of my way usually to like not wear it to certain things, and I don't want to do like if I want to wear it, I want to wear it, and use it. And
that's upsetting. You both have Explorers. I feel like that one bridges the gap well.
Yeah, that one is
super under the radar,
straight down the middle there.
Yeah, love the Explorer.
Yeah.
Anyways, let us know what you think of all this. If you care at all, what you think it'll do to aftermarket prices. Let us know what you think of the Black Bay watch. What has it meant to you? What would you like to see in the future of Black Bays? Do you want to see more brands taking more risks with their designs? And then leaving the heritage stuff behind us, maybe a little bit. Let us know down in the comments. Thank you so much for tuning in this week, and we will see you next time.
Star Wheel Swatch.
Star Swatch.
Star Swatch.
Star Swatch.